Well, I was going to have a wee break from doing camera videos last year, but the months ran one into the other, so now it's about 8 months since I made a video, possibly even longer. So, what am I doing? Well, I'm retired, of course, so I've been staying well away from doing any camera repairs. But I was given this camera. Now, one of my viewers sent me this camera. He's got no need of it himself anymore. He says it's in quite good condition. It's got two faults that he identified. One is it's missing a hinge screw from the front door, and that the shutter speeds are probably running a bit slow, or the slow speeds in particular. But as you can see, it's got a nice leather case, and inside the leather case we have a Retina IIIc, small c, the second type, the type that used the single range meter that we would later see on the three big C cameras. The meter's lively. I can see that needle swings as I expose it to the light or cover the cell with my finger, so we know the meter's alive. Whether it's accurate, that's an entirely different thing. We won't know that until we have a closer look. Let's get it out of the case and inspect the camera. This camera's here for me to service, get back into proper working order, and then it's going to need a new home. So, let's have a closer look at this camera. I'll put my glasses on so I can see. Now, the leatherette is in very good order. The only fault I can see with the leatherette is the hole punched through where the screw has dropped out from the hinge pin, and there's a little bump there, a Zeiss bump right at that point. Otherwise that looks like new. That's a very tidy camera, that one. I think that's better than anything I've got in my collection. Anything else to note? On the outside that all looks pretty tidy. On the inside, yes, that looks pretty tidy too. All very clean. The shutter, let's just set that to a nice slow speed, an 1/8, and see if it functions. Well, you heard a click there as I put my thumb on the shutter release. That may just have been the film advance releasing. I'll continue pressing it down. That was the shutter firing, and as you heard, that shutter was quite slow. Possibly even the slower speeds, it might not even close at all. Let's find out. We'll set it to a second. Oh, that was struggling, and the blades didn't close. Do that again. Keep an eye on those shutter blades. Oh, they just oozed back into a closed position. So that shutter certainly needs to be serviced. That's not fit for taking photos. You may possibly get some joy out of it if it was on a much faster speed. I can tell that that diaphragm's stiff too. It means that the diaphragm blades are probably oily. If we open the shutter on B, we'll check the state of that diaphragm lead. So there's the shutter open, and you can see there, I think, that those diaphragm blades are distinctly oily where they're overlapping. So they're quite sticky. That makes that stiff. What's about the shutter itself on a faster speed? 125th is usually a good way to check it. Let's see what it's like. That seemed quite good. So the shutter blades are possibly not particularly oily. I can see some oil on them, but you'd get away with it at 125th. So this particular camera, if you were using it in daylight, you may not have any great problems. Now I'm just putting the lens back on here, and something worth noticing, you must always line up the little red dot on that tag with the red dot on the camera body, or the shutter body, because if you try and fit it in one of the other two positions, it jams and the results are not nice. Okay, so we know the shutter needs to be serviced. We know that there's a screw missing out of the door hinge at the bottom here, a slight Zeiss bump under the base. We know that the shutter release action is not timed correctly. When I press the release, it releases the film advance a long way in that stroke before it gets to the point where it would release the shutter itself. So it's possibly just an adjustment problem. Some of these cameras actually had a tiny spacing washer in there, which was frequently lost during servicing. That's a possibility too. What else can we tell from this? Well, I better have a peer out the window and see what the viewfinder looks like. And it's incredibly hazy. It's just like looking through, it's a cloud really. It's a grey hazy cloud with a nice clear bright patch in the middle. So certainly the rangefinder needs to be cleaned. Something there is very hazed up. Something on this side. It looks pretty grey to look in there. It must have quite an oily haze on it. Okay, so what else can we tell from the outside of the camera? Anything else in particular? Let's inspect it. Well, it's hard closing that front because of that missing hinge pin screw. I'm just looking to see if the camera is being dropped at all in its life. Sometimes you can see telltale signs. It's all very clean. Sometimes you see that the edge of the door is punched in where it's been dropped, or the hinge at the other end, but that all looks good. The corners on the base here, they're all good too, so they haven't hit the floor. The strap lugs, they're nice and square to the body. They sit correctly. They should be sitting at an angle like that, not bent right down. Sometimes people bend them right down in order to try and wedge a thicker strap through them. What that does, unfortunately, is it distorts the whole bracket, which can lead to problems with the shutter cocking rack, because this bracket holds the shutter cocking rack in position. The rewind, that's all quite normal. Sometimes that's loose, that's all good. So this should be a straightforward strip down service and reassembly. I'm not expecting any great troubles with this, and I'm not expecting to have to replace any part apart from that missing screw down there. I think it'll make a fit project for my return to the videos. I won't be putting out videos with the same frequency I previously did. This camera job probably be strung out over weeks. When you're retired, you haven't got time for things like working, I can tell you. I'm far too busy doing other things. So that's it for today's video. Thanks for watching.